So obviously for academic success, it's important, the weight management and nutrition, to get most out of your studying years, and then obviously when you are working to give your best performance. So I was just saying, you have done well in academic terms, and that was obviously the leading drive for why Ireland then get the Celtic Tiger. It's actually now, okay. So you got more money in your pockets, and you started then, you were short of time, and you started then to go for the convenience foods, the easy options, and obviously your Sunday lunch was usually used to be a treat, your carvery lunch. Many people started to have that at lunchtime, and then evenings were takeaways. Then houses were getting more expensive. You were buying houses further down the area suburb, and commute took more time. So it was easy option to go for the takeaway foods, and we became less active. These are all the reasons that basically explains why then at the moment, and already in 2000 starting, the obesity is basically really a big health problem in Ireland at the moment. My estimate is that if we were able to change people's lifestyles, we could be able to take 70% of people off the hospitals, because if you actually included them, drinking and smoking into this whole weight loss and nutrition, 70% is really lifestyle created. And the figures are frightening. But in the last 10 years, but if you go back another 10 years from 1990, basically there has been a huge increase in overweight and obesity. No, this is not my... At the moment, 39% of the population is overweight, and another 23 are obese. So basically, if you think about 2 out of 3 Irish people are overweight or obese, and basically the way we explain that is by BMI, so body mass index, which is your weight in kilograms divided by your height multiplied by itself. So if your BMI is over 25, you're considered overweight, and if your BMI is over 30, you're considered obese. Now, the range that we're considered somebody being healthy weight is between 20 and 25 BMI, so under 25. Now, if your BMI is 24.9, I don't want to be rude, but you are actually not that skinny. And if you were a Japanese woman, you would already be considered obese, because Japanese people just can't handle any extra fat because they immediately get diabetes and the consequences of overweight and obesity. So even though, looks like we can handle the extra weight better than Asian population, and, anytime you go towards south, I'm talking towards Africa, you get more pigmentations on your skin. That's when you become more sensitive to any excess weight. So you are getting the health consequences at lower BMI level. So the statistics are not great. So you look there from since 2001, so I arrived here in 2000, and I was doing my research. So since then, the obesity levels has gone up by 5%. And over the past 20 years, there is an increase in 67%. So I'm sure you have heard this and you find this very boring, but the reality is that I could say here that every single one of you are going to be putting on between 1.1 to 4.4 pounds over the next year, unless you actively do something about it. And this is basically a combination of the fact that I know there are very young people there who think, geez, this doesn't apply to me, but be careful because time flies actually quicker than you think. You are getting older, your activity goes down with that, and we are living in this what we call toxic environment. And when I say toxic environment, I'm not meaning the toxics and the chemicals, I'm meaning the food which is around us. Everywhere you go, you're offered a cup of tea, you have advert to go home, you switch on TV, you try to relax, and there you say, take a Kit Kat. And that's exactly what you want at 8 o'clock when you are exhausted, a little bit of Kit Kat, maybe a glass of vino or a pint. So this is how it's slowly increasing the calories. And basically North-South survey in 2000 was actually counting these respondents' calorie intake. And they came to the conclusion an average woman is eating 2,287 calories every day. So that's 287 calories in excess of what they need, because we say an average woman can eat 2,000 calories a day. So 7,500 kilocalorie excess will bring you 2.2 pounds of weight. And obviously continuous people say, oh, but the weight increases so quickly. Yeah, it does increase quickly, but really weight management is all about maths. So it's mathematical, you know. Obviously, it's basically your energy output and your energy intake. So if you increase your activity, of course you can eat more. But we need to remember that the role of exercise is overemphasized when it comes to weight loss. Exercise is great when we talk about weight maintenance and keeping active, and obviously the benefits of exercise are numerous. But just that you need to remember that really in the end of the day what matters is what you put in, you know, so how your diet is. Just word about the obesity is that we need to also remember that it's one thing as an adult if you do bad things for yourself and if your lifestyle affects your health. But I do feel very strongly about the childhood obesity. I think it's criminal that the fact that the parents don't recognize, and also many GPs don't actually react when they see overweight and obese child, because they are not making the choices what they are eating. They don't make the choice to go to a McDonald's. This is adult choice. And there's no one person more influential to a child's diet, lifestyle than a parent. So it's no point, you know, starting to go anywhere further than what the parents are doing. The parents are doing that what the children are going to be doing. So childhood obesity is increasing. They say like 10,000 children in Ireland alone every year. And of course now if you think about now then overweight and obesity comes with the consequences. You are basically, if you are obese class 1, which means that your BMI is over 30, you're 2 to 3 times more likely to get type 2 diabetes. If you're class 2, you're 60 times more likely. And if you are morbid obese, the BMI over 40, it's just a matter of time. So you might be the one that resists and you only get it when you're 55, but you might be the one who gets at the age of 33. And now we are seeing type 2 diabetic who are children. So it's just that, you know, really something I hope that you remember. If you don't have children yet, just remember that when you are having children, you have to have your responsibility, because getting the right eating habits really should start from the moment you're being born. You should be breastfed, and then the right track should start from there. So we have the clear medical consequences of the overweight and obesity. And we know that it's costing the government approximately 4 billion a year. So if you think about it, it's a lot of saving, especially in these recession times, not to talk about the psychological impact that overweight and obesity does on people, because people tell me in my clinics all the time how they wake up in the morning and the first thing is that they think about they want to lose weight. Now, if you don't have those clear consequences of overweight and obesity, before that, what does the unbalanced diet, the subtle signs gives you? Obviously, everybody says low energy levels, they get breathless very easily, poor sleeping pattern, and usually, obviously, behind there you have the sleep apnea, muscular aches and pains. I mean, we had in Operation Transformation, I don't know who saw the challenge, the Army challenge, and as an expert, we have to basically compete against the leaders, and we were giving this rucksack with the weight that the leaders have lost. And I was very confident that, you know, this is not about me. I'm quite fit, you know, and if I get any competition mode, you know, I will go through rocks, you know. But they put this rucksack, and it was fine for the first 5 minutes. But then when I have to carry this bag of sand in the water, I started to really feel, I said, this was terrible. I really started to get breathless. I just could not anymore. And even though I had what we call Finnish sisu, S-I-S-U, and this is the strength, we say in Finnish strength that actually kept the Russians out of Finland. So I have it internally, it's in my mother's milk. So even that did not help me, you know, when I had that extra weight. And so you really realize how you know, much energy it takes from you, the extra weight. Irregular bowel movement, you know, is constipation. Because if your diet is not right, you don't get enough fiber, you don't get enough bulk, the consequences are there. And of course, lower self-esteem. I always think that that's the worst thing. If you don't like yourself, how can you like other people? And how, you know, it's the fundamental thing that you say, I'm great, I like myself, I'm the most important person in my life. And concentration levels. And obviously then if you don't have the right balance, you don't have the fiber, you know, which bulks you up, you are going to be hungry. I have to say, and I was walking through there, and I said, this is a great institution and see all the students, but I have to say, wouldn't like to go back to the studying year, so just, get through it, and then one day you get out of there, and it's worth it, because I personally think that these are my best years that I'm at the moment living. And it's great to do it at the moment with good health, and I really hope that you're going to be able to be in the same situation. But saying that, I want to say that the reason I have this extreme interest, sometimes maybe a little bit of obsession for overweight and obesity and cooking and nutrition, is because I actually battle with it all the time myself. Because I love food, I love all the good things in life, but at the same time, I like to like myself, and I am quite vain. So I know how frustrating it is. So it's not that I'm telling you that because I'm an expert and I know it all and I know I do it all right. I don't. I actually can really sympathize how difficult it is. Now, what can we do about it? First of all, I was telling you how brilliant you guys are and how educated you are and all the rest, and I'm telling you, taking all that way because I said it's incredible. Such educated people, you just don't seem to understand the body mass index concept, or is it just that you want to be in denial about it? Because like BMI, weight divided your height multiplied by itself, it basically will give you now, are you overweight or obese? You need to know that. Now, even though that, it's not a great, really, it's not a good value. Really the simplest way would be that you just take a simple tape measure. I forgot to tell you, create the tape measure, and I should show that that's all that really matters, where you put the weight. And the reason women has life expectancy in Ireland 80 years and men has 75 is because we put the weight in a better places than the men do. We put it in the boobs, we put it in the hips. Any fat that you have around your bones is not dangerous fat. Where this is where is the dangerous fat. And if you look at the man, they have nothing in their legs, but it's all here. They could be twins or triples, whatever, when they start putting on weight. So the waist measurement, now these are horrible, and I did not come up with these myself. 94 centimeters for men and 80 centimeters for women. So it's around 37 inches for men and something horrible like 31 or something. Like they are, like I think Victoria Beckham is the only one that gets there. But there is basically green line, then there's a yellow line, and then there's a red line. And anything over 88 centimeters for women is where you are in the red line. And that is not measured here. You need to measure it at the level of the belly button. So what we're trying to find out is that the visceral fat, so the fat that you have between the organs. So if you ended up in an operation table, how long is the surgeon's things has to go deep down and before you actually find the organs that you want to operate? And I have seen operations, and it's quite scary when actually your instruments can't reach the organ because there's so much fat in the top. So if you saw that, I would say everybody would get motivated by that. But that is the dangerous fat. And even today, we don't know exactly how it works. The whole thing that cholesterol goes up, your insulin resistance goes up, and all, it's all that visceral fat. Because every single one of you will get diabetes if you get enough fat. Because insulin resistance lives in fat tissue. That's why we know that type 2 diabetes follows from the overweight and obesity. So there's no getting away from that. So first you need to stop being in denial, and then you have to start being critical about what you eat. And obviously, I know that there is so much information now out about, anybody? Out about diets and food and everything. Sometimes can be confusing, and because weight reduction is actually quite difficult. People go from this diet to that diet, but at the end of the day, really, it is the calories, it's the portions, it's basic maths. So women, we say 2,000 calories a day, men 2,500. Now personally, I'm quite short, I have a high heels here at the moment, so I think I can only eat around 1,800 calories a day if I don't exercise. But of course then, if you're maintaining your weight, the exercise gives you that little bit of leeway. So if you see me eating chocolate or anything nasty anywhere, that's because I went for my 10K run the night before, so just forgive me, okay? So obviously the food comes together from the macro and the micronutrients. And sorry, by the way, forgive me my pronunciation. I do sometimes make people laugh with the way I pronounce words. So you really need to start thinking about the food as an energy for your body, and that you need to tick all these different boxes. And I think at the moment a lot of people are just, they live so that they can just, eat all the time. But really, the food has to be a source of good fuel for your body. So protein, fats, and carbohydrates, and we need all of this in a good balance. Now, protein is something that Irish people don't seem to be lacking. Now, unless you are a vegan and you are a serious vegetarian, when you don't know what you're doing, you might be lacking in protein, but usually that's not a problem. Fats, we get plenty of the wrong fats, but now I think everybody seems to know already that the omega-3s, the oily fish, is what we should be having more. And I really think it's an absolute disgrace that we are living on this island and there's water everywhere around us and we're eating so little fish. So you really should have fish at least twice a week, and one time it should be oily fish. So your mackerel, which is not expensive, great fish, obviously tuna, salmon, that's really the brain food, and there are now some evidence even that attention deficit disorders benefit from extra omega-3 fatty acids. That's actually one of the reasons I'm taking omega-3 all the time and trying to include the fish in my diet. So we eat a lot, and as Irish people, I think, are eating twice as much of the saturated fats, the fried food, because of course when you start frying the food in these cheaper foods, you're just creating these saturated fats, and often they use the oil so many times as well. So it really is quite a serious poison. Carbohydrates are the easiest forms of energy for your body, and they obviously need that. And obviously you need it more if you're exercising. So, this is typically your bread, your potatoes, and of course Irish people love their potatoes. But Irish diet is far too high in carbohydrates. If you went now on the Grafton Street lunchtime, and you're actually seeing what people are eating, it's mainly sandwiches for lunch. And it's not really a great option. If you also started to count how much does it actually cost for you all those sandwiches and a fizzy drink or chocolate bar, everything together, it's actually quite a lot. So, a better option would be to have a homemade vegetable soup, bring it in a flask, and then maybe have a slice of bread, but not 2 slices of bread, then the ham, then a coleslaw, and people say, oh, coleslaw, there's my vegetable. I mean, if you actually measure it, I don't know if it's a half tomato in the end. So then we have the micro, iron, calcium, and obviously all the vitamins and minerals, and those are obviously the important things for all the enzymatic reactions in your body. Iron is something that Irish women tend to be too low. I think one of the research was showing that 1 in 3 women was actually iron deficient. So obviously that's due to the menstruation, heavy periods, that type of thing. So it's important that you make sure you get your iron. Calcium, we are also, this is a problem because now World Health Organization was saying that 1 in 4 women in Europe are having osteoporosis already. And obviously these years when you are studying, now is when you should actually build up your bones, your bone density. Because after that it will start going down. If you are drinking a lot of Cokes and a lot of coffee, you are actually depleting a little bit that calcium as well. So it's, even if you had excess, calcium in your diet, it's coming off. And just remember that your body will always take the calcium it needs. So it will take it, but it will come then from the bone. So obviously, typically, dairy products are the easiest and quickest form of calcium. I know there's a lot of people who don't want to have dairy nowadays, and it's a difficult question. How much dairy should be having? But if you don't want to have dairy and you want to get your calcium and you don't want to take your calcium supplement, then very, very easy form of getting calcium would be, for example, sardines, because you can eat it with the bones. If you don't have weight problems, sesame seeds, you can do a nice hummus, chickpeas and sesame seeds. But like that, with seeds and anything like that, you need to watch it because 600 calories and 100 grams of nuts. So somebody said to you, okay, just eat nuts, they are healthy. That's fine, but what else are you eating? Because there is a lot of that good fat in the seeds. Now, fiber, this is something I'm absolutely obsessed with because that goes with the fiber and the vegetables. Now, obviously, if you're maintaining your weight and you are eating bread, you are eating fruit, you get that from bread, from cereals. But really, the most economical way of getting fiber, and what I mean by economical in terms of calories, would be obviously your vegetables. And especially vegetables growing on top of the ground has less carbohydrates and a great source of fiber. And this is something that Irish people are lacking a lot. One research I remember seeing said that 70% of Irish people don't get even the minimum 15 grams. Now, I think these figures are improving, and I think the latest show that there has been an improvement because, of course, again, the public health education, people are getting more aware. But a lot of people have a lot of what I call food dislikes regarding vegetables, that they only eat tomatoes or they only eat carrots, and they never tried cabbage, they never tried, the green ones. So this is obviously where the important part is that you would need to make sure that when you have children, you actually, let them taste different vegetables from early age. But this is important because the fiber keeps your cholesterol down, obviously helps also to lower the glycemic index of foods that would maybe naturally otherwise have a higher glycemic index. And what I mean by that foods, it would be better that we ate foods that would keep the sugar reading steady, and when they start going up, they go slowly, and not like sugar or glucose, which actually increases your blood sugar readings very sharply. So because the longer satiety, so longer you feel full if your sugar readings goes up slowly, and also that way you don't stimulate insulin very quickly, because insulin is the hormone of hunger, the hormone that will deposit then the extra carbs, extra energy as a fat. So it's important that, we have the fiber intake, high, 25, ideally 35 grams a day. And, obviously I always say better to have your fresh vegetables, but nowadays some people say that the frozen ones are better because they have gone into the freezer and, the vitamins are still intact. And of course, if you are running a very busy lifestyle, if you have, frozen vegetables, at least, you will take them out quickly and you can steam them. Steaming usually is always better than boiling, and that's something that Irish people are still quite, used to doing, just boiling all their vegetables. So here we go now to the vitamins, and obviously, the fruit is obviously a great source of all the antioxidants, vitamin C, and obviously they help your immune system. But I really think that what you need to remember, that there is not one element in the diet that you need to concentrate. It needs to be a balance. I just went to a health store there a few weeks ago, and one lady stopped me and asked me, said, is flaxseed oil good, or should I have that too, because I've been having a lot of viral infections. I said, you can't say one thing is going to sort you out. You need to look at the balance in your diet. Salt is obviously something that we all know, and we are trying to educate people to know about the consequences. And this whole habit, some people just add salt into their food before they even tasted it. So the recommendations are that you shouldn't be, less than 6 grams a day. And again, the statistics are really talking against you guys. And typically, the extra salt is in the processed food. Like if you were cooking all the food at home, and then you start adding salt into your vegetables, that's a totally different story than if you are actually then buying these processed foods and then you add salt into those as well. So it's I always believe that, if the food is cooked at home, you can do things more liberally to the food, and it's still healthy. My grandmother died at the age of 91, and all she ate was full-fat cream, butter, but like that, it was nothing was processed, So I think we need to go back to the basics, to things and what we used to do, 50, 100 years ago. And now we then come to all the liquids. This is obviously something that Irish are great, but by the way, so are we Finnish. We have a lot of things in common. As I said to you, Finnish like their Koskenkorva and our vodka, and you guys like your pints. The alcohol figures for Ireland, what I was reading, I think it's a mean intake is something like almost a liter a day for men. Because obviously they are the heavy drinkers who could have 10 pints in one evening. Women were something like 300-400 milliliters of alcohol a day if you average it out. So alcohol in small quantities is fine. But small quantities means that you should have 14 units in a week. For a woman, that means 2 units every day, but you can't have 4 units every second night, because then 4 is already, you're almost starting to touch the binge drinking. So really, one glass of wine, every evening I could find you some health benefits, that's fine. But when it goes any more in excess on that, actually the mortality goes up. Life is unfair, and of course this is another area, unfairness. Men can have 21 units a week, and only then they are considered they're exceeding their intake. But just remember, you cannot save your units, so really it would be 3 units for men, so you could have a pint and a half, every evening, better than having then your 5, 6, 10, Alcohol is a huge source of calories, and this is obviously something that people often, when they want to lose weight, they don't want to give up. They said, I can do anything else, but I'm not going to stop going to the pub on Fridays, and how could I go anywhere, without drinking? I see the point on that, because it is a problem, because if you're not drunk, how you can handle any of the other drunk people around you? But this is a problem of concern. So, obviously, all those tips you have heard most probably before, have a drink and then have water, and then wait a little bit and have drink again. So try to dilute the evening. And then look at the alcohol percentage of the wines, because at the end of the day, the units are basically your volume. So if, for example, a bottle of wine is 750 milliliters. So 750 milliliters multiplied by the percentage you have. So typically, red wine is 13%. Alcohol, it's very difficult to find any less than 13. So 750 multiplied by 13 and then divided by 1,000. So you're then getting the units. So typically it's just under 10 units in a bottle of wine, which is 13%. But if the bottle of wine is only 9%, you're talking less than 7 units. So that's how you get. So it's very wrong to say, I have 1 glass or 2 glasses of wine. You really need to know what is the exact volume that you're drinking. And obviously the worst thing about the excessive alcohol drinking is that it really makes you hungry, because it drops your sugar levels and you get hungry. So we all know if you had too much drink the night before, you know exactly what type of food you're going to be eating the following day. Fizzy drinks, of course, huge source of calories. Now I know a lot of people are switching to the diet drinks, but you need to also still remember that they still have, unhealthy things in them. So, water is obviously the best thing to drink. I think it's fine to have some diet drinks, they can be a great, treat and less calories, but just watch how many and what are your quantities, Just regarding, when somebody asks you, are you healthy? Health is not just the fact that you don't have a disease. It's a general well-being. Do you feel right? And I think we have to really learn to listen to our bodies. Because if you listen to your bodies, also in things like when you need a rest, we need to start respecting people get enough sleep, because if you are tired, we know from research that tired people eat more. So how can we improve our diet? Planning is everything, and the busier you are, the more you have to, plan. I tend to do a good big shop once a week, and then just, have stuff in the freezer, and that's usually is enough, You need to do your cooking and, these homemade vegetables, so chopping vegetables. It does take time. There's no doubt about it. There is no easy way out of it. But I really believe that it is, in the end, paying off, because you will be less sick. You will feel better. There is no doubt about it. Once you get used to it. Now if I say to you, okay, I have great recipes, and if you do my stir-fried chicken, which is ginger, and there's a little bit of coconut milk and garlic in it, it's actually nicer than many of the takeaway places. Once you are eating healthy, you don't like anymore that taste, that fatty taste. So our taste buds do change as well. So it's well worth, trying to cook something that you're usually tempted to take from a takeaway, and try to do it yourself, and you could be surprised that suddenly it's actually your takeaway meal is actually turned to something much healthier, or actually totally healthy. There's nothing wrong with it. I personally, really relax cooking. If you close me in the kitchen for 24 hours, I'm happy like anything, because for me that's what my way of creating, being creative. The routine really, if we look at the diets, what is the best diet in the world? Like, of course, life expectancy-wise, the Japanese diets are great because they have the highest life expectancy in the world. But over and over again, we see that the Mediterranean diet comes usually number one. And if you look at the Italian and the French, how they do respect their meal times, their breakfast might be a little bit leave to desire, but they usually have lunch and they have dinner. So it's important still to go back again to those things that everybody knows. Snacks between meals. Fruit is a great snack. You can always put an apple in your handbag. I always say keep some apples in the car, because if you got stuck in the traffic jam or somewhere, you know, it's something quick to have, low calories, instead of going for the chocolate bars. Exercise takes time, but like that, usually if you talk to people who are exercising, and getting into the routine, many of them say, I exercise so that I can eat. You know, I can have a little bit of those extra calories. I don't have to be as careful. Sleep is really, really important, and surprisingly, you know, I got into running a few years ago. I'm exercising more now than I used to do 10 years ago, and I'm actually a few kilos heavier than I was 10 years ago. So it just shows you how much and how hard you have to work to keep it down. What was surprising to me was that actually athletes who really exercise, they really try to sleep during the day, have a little nap. So we often feel that, oh gosh, you know, if I'm tired, if you feel tired, you should try to get, you know, a little nap. You know, that's what the French and the Italians do. You know, they usually have 2.5 hour, you know, lunch break, and they go for a sleep. Or make sure you go to bed early enough. Because I know myself, I battle with that, because I quite like to hang around in the house when everybody's quiet and the kids are gone to bed. And actually what I would need to do is just to go to bed and get the good night's sleep, you know. Okay, there we go, breakfast, okay, the boring porridge, but again, that's obviously something that, you know, at least my grandmother used to eat, and she lived up to 91. Yogurt, muesli, fruit. Now, there is now more and more research on the fact that maybe we should change and we should actually have protein for breakfast. A little bit more, because it would give a little bit more satiety. So nothing wrong to make an omelette, but again, obviously nothing in excess, not every day, because we have to remember also that eggs have, you know, the cholesterol, you know it. Nothing wrong with tea, nothing wrong with coffee, but again, you know, nothing in excess. I personally think that the best lunch in the world is always to have a vegetable soup, because even salads, you know, you can look a lot on your plate, lettuce, cucumber, and tomato, but actually it's very little fiber, where if you make a homemade vegetable soup, you know, fiber content is higher, being something warm, much more filling. And then you could have some carbohydrates with that. My one thing about Irish dinner, the Irish tea, you know, which you guys have very early, I personally think that you are eating too early. I think you should have your dinner a little bit later, more around 7:30. I studied in Italy, and we used to always have dinner only 7:30, 8 o'clock. And that just means that then the evening time, you know, before you go to bed, you don't start snacking at 9 o'clock. Because if you have your dinner at 6, you will be hungry at 9:30. You know, it's quite natural then. So just something to think about. But as I said, you can also obviously then create a healthy snack in the evening. Weighing yourself regularly is obviously important, because that's where you don't get away from the number, you know, it doesn't slowly creep up. Once a week, you know, it's a good idea, and if you see that it's creeping up, you know, try to cut back immediately instead of letting it go. We don't really need actually scales. All we would need is a waist measure. But from a motivational point of view, it's too difficult to measure that, because 1 kilogram, which is 2.2 pounds, weight loss will actually result in 1 centimeter of waistline reduction. So it would be difficult, because depending where you measure it, to be accurate. So obviously the scales are good for that. Keep a diet diary so that you know what you are eating, and also, you know, this is where the being in denial helps you, because you can say, oh, but I ate nothing, I eat very little, but when you start writing down the portions, the quantities, you realize it wasn't that little. Annual medical checkups, you know, to make sure that your cholesterol stays down, you know, things don't go out of hand, you know, and, you know, I really believe in that. And if you do overindulge, which we all do, just make sure that when you come back from your holidays, you know, now's the time to go a little bit to a simple diet. Really, from work performance point of view, and obviously for you guys, if you're studying, really it's really your weight, your lifestyle, that all comes down to, you know, your sick leave, your sick days, your performance, you know, if you are overweight or obese, you're going to be tired in the afternoon, you are going to do less So there is no doubt about that. All these goes together. I often feel that, when I see very heavy people, many of them are on antidepressants. And the question is that were they depressed first, or was it actually the weight that made them depressed? And then once they go on antidepressants, it's because antidepressants usually makes you even more hungry. So you have then the effects of the drugs as well.
Do you think that stress can actually make people gain weight?
Yes, I mean, and obviously it's all, again, down to calories.
Yeah.
But definitely the centrally active medications have now clearly shown that they actually can affect up to 100 calories a day, just as, slowing metabolic rate down and all different mechanisms. But obviously, usually the fact that when people get stressed, then many people confident they eat to compensate. There's a mechanism of compensation. So I would still go back down to the calories, Sorry, I don't hear you.
Sorry, I get hung up on calories. I mean, if somebody eats well and fits into their clothes comfortably, without being overweight or underweight, calories really matter.
I mean, the reality, as I was showing you the statistics there, the percentage of normal weight people in Ireland at the moment is getting less and less. So I believe in the education. I think there are very few, maybe I don't see them because I'm working in a weight loss clinic, but very few people who have such a healthy, balanced diet that it just stays that way. Now, definitely my weight doesn't stay if I just ate what I felt like it, and I have to plan ahead for it. And I believe that if we started to educate children from earlier age to understand the calories, the way we basically teach them basic maths and about economic and household economics, how to pay your bills and all the rest. It's the same thing. I always say to people, you don't go and buy a Mercedes-Benz if you don't have the money in your bank account. But you will go in excess in your calories in the afternoon, even you have already spent 1,000 calories for your lunch, you could spend another 1,500 in calories. So I think it's just to be aware of it. Not that people shouldn't get obsessed about anything, but don't believe very much. I know that there is a predisposition to become overweight and obese, definitely, but you still have to create the environment for that to develop. So how many people actually become obese just because? Okay. So I don't really believe for that, Ideally, yes, all the children should run around, eat the healthy balance, there shouldn't be any of that, but, if we go for that, then we go to the same stuff back that we should be living in a cottage and doing our own vegetables and that's not life. So no, I do believe that we need to keep an eye on children, and I think this is actually one of my final. We did a big Karelia project in Finland, and where we basically, this is now over 30 years ago, and this is very famous, an area where we're high mortality for cardiovascular disease. Swap a diet with an Italian diet, and the mortality and the cardiovascular disease started to go down immediately. The problem was that the Italian people who were supposed to eat the Finnish diet did not follow the Finnish diet because they thought it was so horrendous. But what I just want to say to you, it does make a difference. There's enough evidence for that. So lifestyle can make a difference. So